the richness of Tantra here, speaking of the particular tradition, views the human body itself as the dwelling place of these divine energies, the so-called impulses of creative intelligence, various Shaktis. And all this body here, down to physical body now, like just to break it down to physical body, is where everything is made out of the assembly of these divine energies, the assembly of these forces of creative intelligence. So therefore the body itself is being worshipped as that map of consciousness. The body here becomes the microcosm, because every place on the body, be it a solar plexus, the face with all its approaches, the place of residence of the great seers, as the myth goes. Whatever we speak of, hands or feet, knees or anklets, genitals or any orifices, are all viewed here as expressive forms of particular Shaktis. And of course, there are views when it's spoken in clinical terms, in terms of the expositions, let's say, whatever is being the currently adopted conversation. If someone speaks from the perspective of a healer, an Ayurvedic physician, then one would operate with the concept of the pranic currents. So therefore, all these aforementioned physiological formations, because these are, by the way, expressive potentiality of the blueprints, right? Because that's what the human body is. Human body here is at the disposal of the immortals, which are the senses. And the senses find their ways to the expressive potentiality of organs of cognition. And that's the relationship that is steadfast. So the organs of cognition here, not just some kind of insignificant, some kind of inherited from the animal stage of life, some kind of anachronism that we are getting burdened by. No. Contrary to that, a whole body is an expression of the senses. And Tantra goes as far as to say the whole point of having the human body is so as to partake in this, what the creation at the level of manifestation has to offer, down to the sensory enjoyment, down to the sensory involvement, because that's what the body is. Body is, again, going back to, let's say, Ayurvedically speaking, or speaking from the point of view of Atharva Veda, is a gateways. Here the senses find their final way through the organs of cognition. The skin is the largest of all the organs. The hands that carry the sense of touch, the most important sense perception, and the most important sense perception in a sense, because when the baby is born, the whole entire experience is gained through that. And the success and the strength of the immune system, down to a lot of functioning of the neurophysiological responses later on, are to the way that baby has been touched and touched the world. This is the connection. So of course Tantra does not only dismisses all this. It understands the significance of that and brings it fully on. Brings it fully on for what it is. So this mapping of the body with all the rivers that flow, not just how the blood flows through our veins, but all the underground rivers that flow, these pathways of energy, where they flow and overflow and confluence in sacred places. All places of worship, all this is in relation to the actual process of transformation of consciousness when it is ensued by the reversal of that flow during the time of the awakening of the life force. All this is Tantra. And physiology here is not just a physiology somehow, but this physiology is an expression of cosmic laws. This is what we could say, that anthropomorphic cosmic man or cosmic human, not to genderize it, is what the human physiology here is. And so this mapping is very important in Tantra. Therefore, different parts of the body are being worshipped, understood, marked in relation to certain processes. Or the visualization is being used in terms of transfiguring the body from within with this understanding. Because visualization is a very important part in all Tantric traditions, and in Trika Shaivism is not an exception. So it's still, we could say, it doesn't deny the dualistic systems, let's say, of that of Samkhya, or the earlier understandings how some spiritual expositions have to do with playing with the polarities. Female, male, Shakti, Shiva, right? Purusha, Prakriti, these juxtapositions, the Luna, the solar. But it bounces off them so as to flow in the direction of complete and utter union, where one is reconciled in the other. This is Tantra. And human physiology here is being rightfully understood as the expression of cosmic knowledge itself. There is this Vedic axiom, Am Vedam. It's an exclamation. I am Veda. Veda, knowledge. So this is a confirmation, an internal, external exclamation. I am knowledge itself. This Aham Vedam, so this expression of the Vedas is what human physiology is being considered. As I said that the Michael Murphy's book came too early, is because this book preceded a big breakthrough that also took place in the 90s, but later on, I think sometimes in the mid-90s, 95, maybe 96, when a brilliant scientist, neuroscientist, young one, Tony Nader, who was with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, under the direct guidance and inspiration of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, came with his own Opus Magnum work, Human Physiology, the Expression of the Vedas, where he allocated all Vedic sounds with all the respective aspects of human neurophysiology, all of them, so as to map out the entire, let's say, Rig Veda, all the suktams of the Rig Veda, how they correspond to each vertebrae, and how each vertebrae corresponds to a particular functioning of the neurophysiology, and how all of them find their expression at the physiological level, first being a sound. You see, so in other words, this human being, it's the field of sound morphed, coagulated into the recognizable form, equipped for perfect locomotion, for hands that can sculpt and make beautiful cups and can make beautiful sculptures and can hold something gorgeous and fragile, but it can also hold something strong and cutting. It can also hold the beloved. It can also pick a flower. It can also simply enjoy a touch. This is a human body. This is the glory of consciousness fully embodied, always embodied. Therefore, Vedic or Vedantic perspective or Tantric perspective, whether this is Adi Shankara or Ramana Maharshi, or whether these are Tantric masters, they all agree on one ground. They all agree that human birth is precious. Human birth is where it takes place. It doesn't take place anywhere else. It doesn't take place after we die, nor can it take place in any other form. On this, all traditions, as far as Indian culture is concerned, are quite adamant about. So I thought to bring this as an introduction into very, very important, in my view, theme, timely at the very same time, and certainly very much needed because of the aforementioned gap and misunderstanding about the actual processes, without which the unfoldment of consciousness is impossible. So yes, there are people who delved into Advaita Tantra, delved into non-duality, right? Studied classical Vedanta, all at an intellectual level. But then awakening came, the real deal happened. And guess what? Then and only then, the realization that you have to make it in this body, and this is the only reliable thing is, because that's where it takes place. It doesn't matter how amazingly we can retrieve into samadhi. We cannot remain there forever. This is not the purpose of it all. So therefore, inevitably, samadhi ceases and the waking state of consciousness takes over. So where do we find ourselves? So maybe this is applicational, therapeutic side of it, but it's still important. Therefore, we speak about it.